Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It's the big guy with the big show, the Lord. Pause. Nelson, that is.
Hallelujah.
From the podcast Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, I have another special guest. And like always, I do my digging into who they are, and then, I write up a little something, and I got to speak it and just big them up and let them know how much respect I have for them because I'm so thankful to have them on the show. So I will go into it like this. Ladies and gentlemen, my great run of amazing Australian musicians continues with a musician that is multi-talented in the genres of rock and roll, R&B, blues, soul, and the most elegant jazz standards that rivals the music and voices of the jazz greats we love and cherish. Bar none. Bar none, ladies and gentlemen. To hear him sing and play is such an enjoyable watch and listen, captivating your ears and mental with beautiful sounds that you may say is like Calgon, because they truly take you away. Yes, indeed. I am honored to have this incredible musician bless my show with his greatness. And without further ado, I welcome for you to the Live and Loud with the Lord show, the unbelievably talented Daryl Aberhart. Yeah. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Amen, brother, and thank you for having me. And I just feel like that was the most beautiful introduction / love shower that anyone's ever given me. So thank you. It was just warming my heart the entire time. Because I'm terrible at saying that. It's like one of the things that I'm worst at is like in myself and saying, hey, I'm not too bad at this even,
Right.
And it's always a first to hear someone just say nice things about you, because I never say them about myself, if that makes sense.
No.
So thank you so much for that intro and even just taking the time to talk to me, man. It's lovely.
Come on, man. Listen, this is really good for me. I want you to know that, and as we go through, you'll see that. And when I write up these things, and I like to do an intro for every guest, and I really dig into what they're doing. I dive into their music. I dive into whatever it is that they're doing and their expertise, and I just want to enjoy it. So, I got with your music, and I listened to it, and I was just like, okay, this guy right here is a special one. So that's why I reached out to you, man, and I'm really thankful for you being here. So, everything I say is the truth because the Lord doesn't lie.
I can see that.
Yes, indeed. So my first question always is, where are you from, young man?
Okay, I'm born and raised in Australia. I was born in a little regional town called Muswellbrook, which is in the western part of New South Wales, so it stayed on the east coast, and I've spent most of my life in New South Wales pretty much. So I was, born and raised here, grew up sort of here, and ended up, in Sydney for a while when I was studying. But now I'm back in Newcastle of Sydney. It's a really lovely little town, about an hour and a half north of Sydney, and quite a regional town, but it's got a great lot of beaches, and it's a nice place to, hang out and, have a family and, just be really out of the rat race of a big city. Got to me in the end. I had to get out.
Yes, indeed. So you spent time in Sydney, and I had a large Mirage they're on. So they're from the Blue Mountains.
Yep.
Yeah. So we had a good, and then I had Son Eden on, and they're from Melbourne. And so
cool.
Yeah, just great conversations.
Melbourne's great, man.
Yeah, so they told me. So great. We had great conversations with them. So I knew that this was going to be another great conversation. So I'm telling you, I was excited.
I checked out some. That was the funk band from Melbourne, wasn't it? That you did?
Yes.
Funky band from Melbourne. I checked a bit of that cast out, man. Yeah, they're really groovy.
They really are, man. Nothing but love for them. So New South Wales. So what's the best thing about being from there?
Yes. I don't know. It's just a nice, I think every state anywhere, like you could ask that question about any state in the US and you kind of a different answer. You know what I mean? Like it's just, it's just where I am. I like it. I'm close to beaches, mountains, like geographically, lots of different places I can go, inland, outland. And I just sort of like, it's a little bit more relaxed, just north of the city, and in New South Wales, like we got a lot of nice places to go. Like if you're into nature and things, we've still got lots of nice mountain range parks, and my wife and I love to go camping as often as we can and get out into it, simply as we can. And it's great being able to still do that, like not feeling like, we've got, as you know, probably Australia, the tyranny of distance is a term that is very apt for us. Like we've got such a little tiny things with such a broad swathe of like nothing in the middle of it. So everything seems to be, population wise, concentrated. But yeah, it's a lovely state. But so is every state if you're enjoying it and find the things that you love about it.
Indeed.
I'm sure you're the same with your state. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, man, there's all these things I love about it. And nature, I think we've still got a lot of national parks and things to get out. And I find that that's really important for me. Like even if I can get somewhere that's got like no phone reception, so I literally have to stay off my phone. I like those kind of breaks because it's like good for a part of your brain that's hyper connected,
right,
to be able to switch a bit. So I guess, yeah, being able to get out in nature and switch off, man, is a good thing with the base and the parks we got around here.
Yeah. There's nothing like nature. I enjoy, like I like to go fishing and usually just bass fishing.
Same.
And so I get with my son and I or some of my friends and we just go out there, just have such peace of mind. And it's just a beautiful
thing.
It's
great fishing, isn't it?
Yeah. There's nothing like enjoying nature, man.
You guys would have like catfish down there too, wouldn't you? Like they're fun to.
Yeah. So when I was
fishing stuff, man.
Yeah, when I was younger, I fished for a lot of catfish and like bluegill and brim and stuff like that. But as I got older, I just started fishing more like for just bass and I let them go. I'm a catch and release guy now, so it's just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
But yes, indeed. So my wife is from Mississippi.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So my wife is from Mississippi, right. and they're known for like their catfish farms and all those kind of things like that. So yes, indeed, man. So there's nothing like enjoying that and just nature. I was just talking with a good friend of mine this morning.
If I ever go over there, get over to you, you'll have to take me to your favorite little bass spots because I love some top water fishing.
Man, I'm right.
Too,
listen,
so that would be.
Listen, Lake Murray is one of the biggest lakes here. It's right just a few miles up from me, and of course, I got you. We're good.
Okay. It's a date. When I got the ticket, brother, I'll make it a date. We'll get out.
I got you, man.
Have a couple up because I love it too. It's amazing, isn't it? It's like it's that peaceful part of your mind. I used to love like float fishing, especially for species that there was something about that really calming thing of
right, indeed.
Like just watching the float and you're not doing anything else but that. And I think that's a great thing for your brain, in this, 100%. Like I said, this hyper world where it's coming at you so fast, like to be able to just slow down enough to, I'm just watching a float go past, man.
Yes, sir.
I did that time. I'll put it back again and I'll watch it go past another 10 times and not even get it down, but that doesn't matter because I'm right there with it, and I think that's kind of good training for music in a way too. Teaches that part of your brain to not think about, what are other people going to think about what I'm playing? Do they, not sort of analyzing everything in real time too much, just letting yourself be. That's something I've struggled with a lot in my life and I'm getting a lot better at it. It's like when I'm playing, trying to just be there in that bubble of that moment as opposed to, and that's what made me think of the podcast because whenever I'm doing that, it's just that I'm just there, and that's
indeed. So you said
it's a hard sort of peace of mind to get, like a hard place to stay in, I think.
Yes,
because it's always distractions and self-doubts pulling at you as a musician. And I'm sure you've experienced that in your own playing. Like there's always that doubt in the back of your mind. Am I doing this right? Or am I good enough? Or are people making it? And I think it's really unhealthy to focus on that crap too much, like to get it out of your head because you can't be you while you're thinking all those things about other people and what they're about what you're doing. So, creatively, I think it's a great headspace to try and cultivate. Just being right there in you, no noise, no static. Hard, but joyous when it happens.
Of course, and you being the musician that you are, doing all the things that you do, I know your mind is so full of, and I just think it's amazing musicians that play multiple instruments. I think it's just a totally amazing thing because you guys have a different perspective of things and all the things that you're hearing me as a lyricist and a writer, as a writer, I know what I hear, and I do hear music in my head all the time, and I'm super visual.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's like I always tell people, it's less of being in the moment. You are the moment at that time. You are the moment right
Mm.
there. Everything is coming through you.
Yeah.
And so if anybody else comes into that,
Yep.
they're a part of your moment. They're a part of what you are and what
Yep.
you're doing at that time. So, just the ultimate respect for it, man, indeed, man. And as we go through, you're definitely talented dude. So let's dive into your genesis. Were your parents musicians? And if so, what were they enjoying during your youth?
Okay. Well, it goes way back. Apparently, my dad he's really competent, guitarist. Like knew all his jazz chords. He plays a great ukulele and stuff as well. He's like 80, so he's still got his uke, so he's still playing. He's just bought himself a new one. But he had a dance band apparently, like way back in the Hunter Valley, which is the regional part just west of where we are, about an and they'd be playing all those classic, the progressive dance sort of thing. Mm-hmm. You'd play a foxtrot, you'd play a this and a waltz. So yeah, apparently he had a really successful little combo up there, and did that for a few years while he was also an electrician. My dad was like running gangs they were building all the power stations around New South. He was one of the senior guys, like running the teams on that to construct them all. So he's also a really brilliant electrical engineer. So he's got a lot going on there as well. But yeah, so that was like the start of it. So dad was obviously got the music stuff going, and he when I was younger and they figured out, oh, I can sing, so they just bought me an old church piano that was like, they just got it for $100, and it was like, all writing and the keys sort of, what I mean? It was enough to play on and start practicing on. And my dad was, I remember they were into country music. So some of my earliest memories of music is like, and that's cool, man, because I still relate to those tunes, and I relate to those stories, like, the one about the apocryphal one about Charlie Parker. They go out to the car during the set break and there's tears running down his face because he's listening to a country tune and it's like breaking his heart. You know what I mean? Like, yes. So there's some of those old tunes, man, like still kind of embedded in my head and my soul and my psyche, and they actually come out a bit in some of my rock stuff every now and then, especially when I'm playing, like trying to teach myself still to play the guitar. I put it that way, but I'm always like sort of mucking around on it. But that country stuff has really kind of embedded, like, just come on home to your blue Kentucky girl, and all those old, every like classic song that you can think of, like 6 days on the road and I'm going to make it home tonight. Those things like just got so deeply embedded, and I love them. I still love them, man. I still I love, as you can probably tell from my like wide range of stuff that I've experimented with doing musically and still do. Like I really think of like genres of music that I don't like or appreciate, or there's always something from Death Grips, whatever, that I just listen to it and I go, oh wow, okay, I'm really digging on that. Or Tekka, really heavy stuff way out at the end of the noise spectrums and what's experimental stuff, and I love all that, always have, and but to me it's just like, I just love the idea of experimenting with all of that stuff. And when it comes back out, I think, like we're talking this country stuff, it's really interesting because, what you were saying about before, it's like coming out of you, but it's kind of refraction. It's like 30 years of that stuff bubbling away inside of you, and then your kind of impression of it or feeling is coming out in some new way. Oh, I'm writing a chord progression that's reminiscent of this and reminds me of that, sort of subconsciously, and that's how it's coming out. But yes, a lot of country I used to do, like, I've got vague memories of my mum dressing me up in like cowboy boots and hat. We'd go and sing talent quests with dad, you know what I mean? We'd sing Old Shep and all these sort of crazy old songs. So stuff like that. And then I remember there was this, like, it took a while, like, for me to sort of find where I'm at now and all these things. Like because I wasn't really, dad didn't have like a huge record collection. Mm-hmm. But he had a lovely stereo. And so I remember going through the records he had. There was like the Beatles. There was a couple of Beatles albums he had. What was the Bang Bang, Maxwell Silverhammer, Let It Be. And I think he had a best of Beatles. And there was some other stuff like Hooked on Classics, Hooked on Swing, and this one Jerry Reed album. I remember When You're Hot, You're Hot. I used to listen to Amos Moses off that incessantly. You know that old, now Amos Moses was a Cajun. He lived by himself in a swamp. Alligator for a living. He just knock him in the head with a stomp. Louisiana law's going to get you, Amos. Illegal hunting alligator down in the swamp, boy. Oh, man, every line. I still love that song to death. But yeah, so I started going through his record collections, and then just because I was playing piano and singing, I got right into all the old, all the Billy Joels.
Yes.
Don't go changing.
Oh.
I used to do a gag where I sit on that forever. I go, don't go changing. Don't go changing. Don't go changing. I do mean things like that sometimes to amuse myself. To audiences.
Dude, let me tell you how beautiful all of this is. First of all, the fact that you're talking about country music, and so many people always say that, I don't like country music. And I always look at them like, what do you mean? I can't even understand it.
You don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I was just like,
get it, man.
Music is great.
Either.
If it's great, it's great.
Yeah.
And so you have spoken so much about the things. Like I always say, it's great when I know I have certain questions, and then just to hear you just run through them, and I didn't even have to ask the questions, and you just went. And listen, I think it's beautiful. I love it every single time because it just lets me know how well it's flowing and doing this thing. So I'll still touch on it, but I'll have to go into it as deep because you just answered so much so beautifully. So you grew up doing what you were doing, but, and I see that you were influenced by your dad and the music that was playing in the house. So,
yeah, definitely.
So, when you were a teen,
he taught me to sing harmonies and all that sort of stuff as well. Yeah. Like we were singing, we did a couple of, when I was, I must have only been in primary school or something, like year 5 or 6 or whatever it was. And then we didn't do much of it after that because I'd sort of got older and I was being self-conscious and wanting to do my other stuff. Like I got right into the Piano Man type of thing. So I learned like a whole bunch of Billy Joel songs, like, what's that? Some folks like to get away, take a holiday from the neighborhood. All that sort of stuff, like really got into my head, some Elton John tunes as well. Yes. But mainly Billy Joel, because he had that, I think that caught my ear because that was the start, I think, of my wanting to, I didn't understand what was going on in a lot of those songs, like harmonic at the time, but I knew that it was a bit more sophisticated, and that, when you hear those little resolutions and the chords and the actual qualities of the chords. I'm using a -7, major 9s, you know what I mean? Like these extensions. And like I said, I had no idea at that until many years later when I went to my first uni degree and had my head blown off with like harmony classes. And that for me, I think was the start, the inflection point of starting, there's this sophisticated stuff out there.
Right.
And I'm going to try and learn these songs. And, again, I was I'm a very autistic and recently diagnosed adult ADHD person. So this kind of makes a lot of sense. Like one of my best was a story about me just to illustrate the point. I was living with him at the time and he told this, that one day Daryl bought a bass. He went into a room and he came out a day later and he could play bass. Couldn't play bass before he went in there. And I literally went in there and learned Teen Town. Like for 20 hours, that was the first thing I really wanted to learn, transcribed it and just nailed it very slowly. But, that whole idea of just like, I was at the time doing that with these things, like very autistically just, I'm going to grab this song and I'm going to learn it. I might not understand it, but I've got the chords correct under my hands.
Right.
I'm at least making those sounds. And then came the fateful day. I think Dad had these beautiful big, I remember this so clearly in my mind. I must have been in just starting high school or late primary school. He had these beautiful speakers. Like he was a nut for all this sort of, like he'd always save up and buy the best. He had these beautiful big ass Bose speakers, big square. And he used to, every weekend, his favorite thing was he'd love to crank. There was this station called 2FM, which was, it's still here. It's like a big wide, those big wide stereo sounding channels where they put the stereo widener on and everything sounds like miles wide.
Right.
And this one day, Pagan track, it's like he's my kind of guru, dude, writer, whatever. And it was the first time in my life I ever heard IGY, what a beautiful world this will be. Well, it's time to be free. It was just like, oh my God, what the hell is going on there? And that led me, once I hit that, that just smashed me down the Steely Dan road. And I was kind of on, hooked on those guys, like everything that they ever did together. And Fagan's solos, just adore what they've done and he's doing, but that was really the point. I think it went from Joel and then suddenly that. But like, what we were talking about before with the country, like love those tunes. I could quite literally get a set of my fave country tunes right now
Mhm.
and play them and have such a joyous time on a gig, go and play 40 minutes of my favorites because they're just, you were getting at it before, like they're great songs. Great
Yes, sir.
songs are great songs. And it doesn't matter what what genre or whatever. Like some of my favorite songs are they're just that idea of the song being like that idea of prosody where everything is matching everything, the music and the
Being
lyrics, the
harmonious.
melody.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's even more than harmonious. It's like lifting each other up, like you think. I tell my songwriting students about this idea. It's like I use the simplest idea I can think of for prosodic is like wake me up before
Before
you
you
go. You know what I mean? Like little things like that. And they just, you think, oh, subconsciously, oh yeah, it couldn't be anything else. But the dual effect of those prosodic kind of things, I think, is amazing.
100%.
Rufus Wainwright does that stuff beautifully. Rufus Wainwright Jr., that one he stole off. Just that one piece. It's just he stole that bass line from the Carmen from Bizet, I think. My phone's on vibrate for you. There's nothing. Da, 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 da. I tried to dance, Britney Spears. Oh, anyway, if no one's ever heard that song, like that's a real. I go back listening to. There's a few things I go back and listen to every so often, just because they send shivers up my spine. And hearing Rufus Wainwright Jr. sing "Vibrate," which is there's this live recording of him doing it, and it literally I sit there and tingle all over when he. And there's a few songs like that in my
Right.
life. But yeah, anyone listening, if you haven't heard "Vibrate" by Rufus Wainwright Jr., it's something else. Just so stripped back, just him with this raw emotion and he's actually inspired me. I'm working on my own version of a left thing, but of course, being me, it's all odd times, odd time stuff, which I absolutely adore. But that's a whole other story for a bit later in the chat, I imagine. Sorry, I'm just rambling here. So much fun talking about this stuff with you, man. It's great. When you get the chance to rap like this stuff.
Ramble on because listen, you gave me as you talk about the tingles and the chills and the goosebumps, and I'm going to get to it where I talk about it later, which is the IGY. We'll get to that later on because when you hit me with that, let me tell you something. I don't even want to talk about it now because I want to wait for it then because amazing. You almost listen. I almost started singing, standing. I didn't want to start singing yet because anyway. Rotation. Let me say, Donald Fagen, rotation. Steely Dan, rotation. So, what were you playing as a teen? Were you still playing the same things as a teen, or did you move to other stuff? As teens, we start listening to certain things. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a real late bloomer in regards to so much of that stuff. Or I do remember, like at the time, like I wish I'd listened to a whole lot more rock music, and I'd listened to a little bit of Led Zepp, but I did. I had this thing for ACD, couple of AC/DC songs, and the album Back in Black. I reckon I wore my copy of that out because after a while it wouldn't play, man. But like there was something about songs like Back in Black, Jailbreak, that and that's what's prompted me. We'll probably talk a bit about my rock music and stuff, but I reckon that's a huge part of what inspired me to want to make that. There's a particular, to me, Australian rock sound that it's an international kind of presence that they've got, but I always thought of that dry, crunchy Australian rock, and especially with that kind of, like Bon Scott, the original singer, had that kind of almost Australian thing, but the accent as well. So it had that, a little bit of that quality too. But like there's a huge history, even though they're sort of not there as much in the gig opportunities of pub rock kind of gigs. And that was always that sound was so attractive to me. And then I started hearing other stuff on the radio, I guess, around that time. Like I got kind of into new wave bands like Devo,
Yes.
and all that, all that sort of stuff that was coming out with the synthy stuff, like, and not
Yes.
like fully into them, but appreciating the sound and the development and where maybe they'd come from. Because, I'm hearing Blondie, but I'm sort of hearing a bit of stuff going from that. And eventually, like, when you discover stuff like krautrock, you can see, oh, the krautrock's a direct line to like Radiohead,
Right.
to the whole new wave thing, man. It's like those guys like New and Kraftwerk and stuff, like
Yes.
really that beautiful. I'm sure you've seen that it's on YouTube, Under the Influence, krautrock, Under the Influence. It's a great documentary if no
No,
one's seen it,
I
and it
haven't
really
seen that.
spells
I
out.
think I have to see that. I haven't seen it. I know the music well.
It's only like a 45-minute thing,
Yeah.
but it's just so jam-packed with like really interesting kind of correlations between like what was happening in the scene. And to me, it like watching that documentary, it locked in kind of subconscious connections that I'd made with like those bands and stuff.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, of course, that where this like Duran Duran and all these Blondie and all these other bands, like they really drew so much. And then they did the thing that you're supposed to do as an artist. It's like refract it through your own
Right.
personal, and that's sort of what you were getting at before. It's like you're coming in through my moment. Well, it's the same with an idea, I think. That idea, and that's kind of a phrase I use a lot when I'm teaching, is like it's refracted through the prism of you and your composite experiences and everything to that date, your knowledge, your whatever. So wherever you are at that moment,
Yes.
that idea refracting through you, musically, lyrically, whatever,
Yes,
that's the thing, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I love it, man. You just talking about so much good stuff. That's just the stuff that I grew up on. That's my teenage years. Man, all of that. Man.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
talk about Blondie and Kraftwerk and all, man, oh my goodness. I mean, just totally amazing. So let me ask this question: When you spoke about it a little bit earlier, when did they know, or when did you know you could actually sing?
I don't remember them telling me this, but I can tell you a story about our daughter Grace that very, very, very young. This must have been like, I don't know, 3 or whatever. She would sing herself to sleep. And then it wasn't long before we noticed that she's singing along in perfect whatever. And I think that was maybe an analogous story to what happened with me as a youngster. It's like, oh, he sounds a bit, Dad was musical. Maybe is a little bit along. He likes to sing. So Dad taught me to he was the one that sort of started to teach how to pick harmonies and stuff like that. And then I went on to work before I left. Last couple of years, I lived on the Central Coast there, which is just north of Sydney, and moved to Sydney. But I've worked. I've recently discovered that it was kind of funny in hindsight, but I've got ancestry in New Zealand that goes back to a Maori connection, like up in the north of the North Island. So I'm sort of exploring that as well. So it was funny that like my working experience predominantly for about 3 years after leaving school was with Maori bands. These like John and Paul Parkey, Charlie Morgan, and Ali Hikaroa, like on bass. Look, these guys were just really good musicians, great singers, but it was all like 3-part harmony stuff, which was so good. You know what I mean? Like being forced to not just play like, especially with Ali and Charlie, we would do quite some of those sophisticated things, and he could nail them too, like Quincy Jones, what's that? The 100 Ways. And she used to be
James
everything to me.
Oh my goodness!
When she was my girl, So it was like all these great songs and singing them with those guys. So that I just talking with, it's funny. Like there's so many elements and aspects of my life that I, without bringing them up like this, like talking about them, I don't really think about a lot. But when I think about how important that was for me working with those guys, like just being a regular working musician, like doing 2 or 3 gigs a week, but also like, especially with like Ali and Charlie, they were really quite sophisticated in some of the repertoire that they chose. We weren't just doing pop songs. Like he was just doing soul and R&B and groove stuff, like that was a little bit out of the, this was a guy who could play like Mark Miller's solo, like Sultans of Swing, as good as or better than Mark Miller.
Oh my goodness. Come on, man. Wait a minute. Hold on. Hold on now. What did you just say? He could do what? Play what?
Man, Ali Morgan, anyone who's watching this, like, and who's ever seen Ali Morgan like play, guitarist and singer, this guy was a freak. back in the day. I remember he was doing stuff that no one else was doing in terms of like he had this little drum machine, right?
Mhm.
So he would handwrite and program all these perfect like things. Like, and it was conceptually impossible for me to think of even doing at the time, like what he was doing, like, but it was so intricate. So he would take a song, he would program the entirety of it in little patches like that,
Mhm.
save it, and he had a tape machine. Like this is how primitive back the day it was, right? So he had a tape machine, like you'd load your old Commodore
I got you.
64s,
Yes.
and he would load the song onto it from the tape. So he'd have all the songs that he wanted to play in order on the set. So he'd just load up the next
Wow.
done, and they were perfect. But, we're talking about that Sultans of Swing and all that stuff. And he had just the most righteous tone,
Yeah.
these old Ibanez tube screamers I remember that he had. And it was phenomenal, man. And he could play anything note for note and not just play it. We were talking about being in the moment. Like he
Uh-huh.
was really feeling it when he played it. And that's why I say as good as, maybe not better than, but it was like if you're in the room with those cats. And so that's what I mean. They really infused a lot of stuff in playing the R&B and the groove stuff that we did
Mhm.
with Ali and Charlie specifically after moving away from John and Paul in the kind of pop stuff we were doing
Right.
in all the clubs was really, again, for me, I think, development-wise, because it let me go, oh, okay, this is moving up. And that got me even hungrier. And that's about the time I left the Central Coast. And it was just like, I think the phrase I used at the time was like, I'm going stale.
Mhm.
I said to my mum, I just don't feel like I'm music stale. I'm creatively stale. I really feel like I need sustenance, something more. And went in green as grass and auditioned, and I got accepted into the early version of it was the jazz diploma course. It was a
Mhm.
2-year course at the Sydney Conservatorium.
Right.
It was like within the music department there. And it was just a small course and running, started by a famous Australian jazz musician named Don Burrows many,
Mhm.
many, many, many years ago. He sort of initiated it. It's still running today. It's a fantastic course.
Mhm.
I went back and did a bachelor in the same course as a mature age student in like 2010. And
Right.
it was still amazing. But the first time around, man, like we were so blessed. Like we had some of the absolute greatest like musical minds there. And so for someone that was green as grass, I didn't really even know what modes were, man.
Mhm.
You know, I still got this distinct memory. Like he's an absolute genius, this guy. And there's a documentary on him on YouTube as well. Is Roger Frampton. And
Mhm.
anyone that I ever encounter, like my fellow ex-student stuff, anyone who's ever been exposed to this guy, you mention his name and you sit down and you have a rave for like it just starts and everyone's got so many stories about this guy. He would pass and do stuff like he would play like just for a joke, he would play like I can't even do it how he did it, but he would play like things like Honeysuckle Rose in 2 different keys. And
Mhm.
so he'd be playing like a it's like Charles Ives level stuff. But he was just an incredible mind, and he taught us all so much. Like we only ever had him for this one series of classes called Impro 2 in like second semester, and everyone who took that class had their mind blown. I still remember, I didn't even know what a mode was, right? So this is a fun memory for me because he didn't do it in a nasty way, but he was so intellectual and stuff. I don't think he thought about the way sometimes that he taught. And we were cool, but I remember we were doing the Lydian mode. That was the mode of the day. So he grabs the mic off me because never heard it. Who's ever sung a sharp four? If you know what I mean? Like da do do. I can do it now, but I remember him. I was just having trouble. Everyone's like trying to sing and solo and stuff, and I've never done this stuff before. And here's me. Didn't even have any other vocalists or even a vocal teacher. I had an operatic teacher for the first year because they weren't prepared for me. They hadn't had vocalists for years. They didn't have any after. They've got a couple now, but
Right.
it's like, vocalists are always a bit of a secondary thought, unfortunately, in those
Mhm.
sort of things. Oh, vocalist, not musician. No, musician. You know what I mean? And so I remember hanging over me and I couldn't do it. And he snatches the mic off me and he leans over me, goes, da do do da da da, just slamming the sharp four, like da do do da, like in my face, So that was a lesson, and I could sing the Lydian mode after that. I suppose it was all good,
Of
But like
course.
that guy, man, he just everyone I know just still speaks about him in like such reverential tones. he taught so many of us so much in such a short amount of time. And, the people there too, amazing people like a bassist, Craig Scott, who ran the program for a number of years. He was wonderful. And Dame Judy Bailey, man. There's a great, we started what's called the Newcastle Improvised Music Association right here, my wife and I, in our house, as Capri Gorb.
Okay.
And we all banged our heads together and said, there's no jazz in Newcastle. We started this like 10 years ago, and it's been going strong in town ever since. Like, it's amazing. It's even got an extra jam. Yeah, we started that thing here, and we were just having these we had like 6 house concerts. If you have a look on, I think it's called An Intimate Afternoon With, I put up 6 clips of these concerts, and there's one of them of Dame Judy Bailey playing, my romance. I mean, she's the one that taught me about so many things. She used to come into I had her like, and they never get, that's the shame with university lessons. You never get this anymore. Like, they chopped all the private tuition line. But back in the day, right, there was this thing called second study. So you could have a second study for 2 years. I had Judy Bailey for 2 years, half an hour a week for like 10 lessons a semester. It's like unheard of. You'd never get that stuff. But I go into every lesson with her, right? And the first lesson I remember, hello, nice to meet you. First thing she says in this little gravelly voice, and she's this diminutive, like she's tiny and lovely lady. And she just goes, the piano's an orchestra, dig. And then she just plays, some huge, chord for me, and it just looks at me and goes, dig. So many of our lessons, man, I remember were just like this. So she'd just be playing, dig, and all these chords for me, like, dig, that was the thing. And then it's like, if I have to, I'd ask the question, which was most times, like, what the hell are you doing? But yeah, on that video of Judy playing It's An Intimate Afternoon With Judy Bailey, and then the others should come up. There's some great ones with James. Oh my God, we could talk about him all day, the Australian guitarist. You should check him out if you haven't. Like, that guy, he's actually just put out a transcription book with Wayne Krantz, if you know Wayne, another amazing American guitarist. But he collaborated he's so into Wayne's music that he actually transcribed all his tunes and had Wayne check them, and they put this book out. So that's worth checking out. But yeah, if you ever get a chance and James is into it, man, have a chat with James Muller or something, because he's, amazing dude. But yeah, Judy showed me all that, everything. So again, like with Rod, when it comes to the piano and stuff, like, she just opened my world. Like, so she's a super important person to me. But, she showed me how to voice chords in a way that make them sonorous, what to not put in, not what to double, and those sort of things. And it was like, I remember the first day she showed me block voicings, like that George Shearing stuff. When you play, all that kind of gear. Right. And it was just like such a rev. And it was like, oh, what? Chord scales? Thank you.
I just love the fact that...
Yeah, man, but so...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Great teachers, just shows you the power, I think, of great teachers and being exposed to great minds and people that are able to just switch a light on. Like, I had one lesson with a guy named Paul McNamara, another great Australian pianist and composer, and I learned so much. Like, he said, he was just showing me, on the altered scale, there's these major chords, right? Like, what? Oh, okay. So there's a year's homework, right? Checking out the sharp 4 and the sharp 5 major triads against a dominant altar chord, for instance. Sorry, that's technical music stuff we're getting into there, folks. Just as an example of like one great lesson with one great teacher can just change somebody's life. And it's certainly changed mine, I think, on multiple occasions. It's like a whole new road for you. And I can name, as we go through, I'll probably name more of the teachers that done that sort of stuff for me as well. But I love great teachers.
What's awesome is that, like, so I'm thinking about a good friend who played on some of the Stuck Mojo stuff when I was with Stuck Mojo, and he's the piano tech for Lionel Richie right now. His name is Eric Frampton.
Yeah.
So Eric Frampton is a piano dude, and so it's like you guys should be talking to each other, because the technical stuff that you guys know, and he's such an he's so amazing. I know so many amazing musicians. And I was going to ask you further down about your schooling, but you've already let it be known. Once again, you've answered so many questions. We're just kind of even. It's just such a great thing right now.
It's just fun when you're just rapping about this stuff, man. It's
just love.
It's fun to remember it, you know.
Yeah, I'm being quiet because I'm listening because I'm there. I'm just like, wow. He's speaking about this person.
Well, you're bringing me joy by making me remember this stuff, man. You're making me happy by making me remember it and talk about it. It was such joyous and transformative experiences, like a lot of those things. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for asking.
Come on, man.
It's nice to remember good things, isn't it? You know, it's nice to remember the.
Well, once again, it's just like you're so knowledgeable of music and just listening to your terminology. And now, so when I was listening to you doing my research and now having you live talk about it, I was just like, he really knows. I was like, he had to go to school. He had to. He knows the different things. He knows this and that. And so it's just lovely to hear, man. It really is. So
I'm still going to school every day, man. I'm still looking every day. There's always a new corner to look around.
Yes.
There's a new holder dig or something to lift up and look under, isn't there?
Yes.
Always.
Yes, indeed. And like I was telling the Son Eden, and I say this a lot about Quincy Jones. I was watching something with Quincy Jones and Chuck D. I always tell this story. And Quincy Jones was like, take 10 of the artists that you love, take something from each of them. And when you take one thing from each of them, you'll have your own unique style that'll just be you. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. So I know there are certain, and we probably already do it more than we even understand it, you know, and grab things. Yeah. So I was just like, man, I always speak that because that was just so interesting to me. But man, you know, I love that. And so listening to your,
so many of us do that path, man. Like we I know I did. You imitate before you innovate, right?
Right.
So to have, in order to do something that sounds a bit like Stevie Wonder, you have to have sung, played, and learned to my way of thinking, a lot of Stevie Wonder tunes. So you get his inflection, you get his, his timing and his phrasing, especially like the ends of it are always so neat and, great R&B and soul singers all have that. The ends of their phrases. I'm always banging on my students, like offsets, where they end. It's as important as where you start, if not more so, but guys like that, I think they really affected me a lot, because I tried to, I guess, what you were talking about there. It's like, okay, well, emulating Stevie, that sort of erosion of life kind of erodes a bit of that away if you're lucky, and you start to find a bit more of yourself underneath the imitation. That makes sense, but you have to, I think there's nothing wrong with, okay, I want to play that dude, like Buckethead or whatever. Okay, I'll learn to play like Buckethead, and then maybe I'll see where that takes me on my own journey.
Right.
It'd be fun to play like Buckethead, wouldn't it?
but the honest thing of it is that we're not gonna be them, but we're gonna be whoever we are. So it's gonna sound different, but our sound different might be the most magnificent thing that's ever been created. Yeah. So, yes, we're influenced by these other people and stuff like that. So I embrace it. I tell people, I was like, okay, that's all love. I love it. But it's just like with Eric Frampton, he's just so talented on the keyboards and piano and just coming up like you. So was piano was the first thing that you learned? Or was that the first instrument?
Piano and voice. So I studied I studied from quite a young age, like classical piano and classical voice, and they were both really good grounding. And I did go as far as to pass, like, almost the highest you go is like 8th grade, and then there's like a couple of others above that if you want to teach classical music. But in the system we've got over here called AMEB, I think I did 7th grade piano and 7th grade classical voice, which was, like I said, great grounding for learning to use your voice, learning to make sounds well and responsibly and carefully, like not so good for vocal health. It was all great. But I stopped playing. I remember specifically when I switched from piano, it was like I must have been just about to leave school, and my piano teacher, Philip Reese at the time, was saying, "You're swinging bark." I said, "What?" And he said, "You're swinging bark." And he said, not that that's a bad thing. Bark probably swung it too. We will never know. But you're swinging bark, but, whatever it was I was playing, some Courant or whatever it is. So And that was his cue. And then he started introducing me to. I'm trying to remember the first tune he ever. It was like something called one for Ollie, Oliver E. Nelson, one for something or other. But he was like Oliver E. Nelson was like a pretty well known kind of cocktail jazz composer and
he's a
player.
Nelson, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Of course he's talented. What am I saying? But yeah, so but one for Brucey. That's the tune. If you ever find that one, so one for Brucey was, I think, the first kind of legitimate jazz thing I had to learn, because like Phil said, well, we're not doing Bach anymore. You're playing this stuff,
right?
And that was kind of when I thought, okay, well, I'll just officially start heading down that path, and I guess led me to the con eventually. But yeah, so piano, classical voice, and then like that evolution we were sort of talking about before, as I got exposed to, oh, there's IGY, oh, there's the wave or whatever, and so wanting to expand into those sort of areas, it was kind of good. Your consciousness broadens, you're open to more things, and yeah, the piano and voice, and then I didn't pick up bass guitar, like that was quite a few years later, after I'd kind of been at uni the first time round, and I just sort of had this sudden hankering to want to play bass. So I bought myself a student bass, and that story I told you before, I literally went into this room, and for some reason, I've always been such a mad Jaco Pastorius fan. Like, I love that album Word of Mouth is like one of the most beautiful things ever recorded. If people out there, if you haven't heard it, it's just incredible. It sounds amazing. The compositions are, Three Views of a Secret with Toots Thielman on the chromatic harp. Just, again, it's one of those things, like you hear it, gets you every time. But like I wanted to play Ting Town. I'd had this album forever. It was like, it's one of my favorite other Jaco albums, called Live in New York, Volume 1. And he's got this insane band. He's like got Kenwood Denard on drums. He's got Hiram Bullock just going nuts, like on guitar. And they do this version of Teen Town, like at breakneck speed, but it sounds more like heavy rock kind of. And they get this like full on heavy riff, and Hiram's going, extend. If you haven't heard that, Live in New York Volume 1 version of Teen Town, and that will explain a lot of why I suddenly wanted to learn Teen Town. It's the first thing I ever picked up on bass, which is stupid crazy, Yeah, I'm starting off with learning some scales and stuff, but like literally day after day, it was probably more, I could play after a day, but like after a week, and a mate of mine helped me like transcribe it so I got it right. So he taught me Teen Town correctly. So after a week, I'm fumbling my way through Teen Town at a slow tempo, but it was like so rewarding, because it's like, I wanted to play that so bad. And that, from that moment on, it was like, okay. I went on to spend a couple of years actually playing bass for a well-known blues guitarist. If you haven't checked him out, you'd love Ray Beadle, man. He'd be totally fascinating chat for you if you've not checked him out. He's one of the most well-known. Ray Beadle is, and he's toured the States quite a few times, I think, and he's kind of well known in the blues community over there.
Would love to talk
but
to him.
Yeah, he'd be a brilliant chat. He's the most lovely guy on the planet. But like, I was lucky enough to play bass with his trio. We did a lot of cool like jazz blues festival gigs. I remember at Threadbow and places like that outdoors. It was amazing. And great drummer we had at the time, Mike Iverson, who went on to play for Gautier. That's somebody that I used to know. Yeah, lived in LA for a while, and with those guys. So yeah, it was a tight trio. It reminded me, everyone used to say it reminded them of the that old Wild Hendrix trio with Mitch Mitchell and stuff like that, because we sort of modeled ourselves on that sound. So that was a fun couple of years, man. And that really let me get the blues thing that I always felt, because I've always felt it's a part of my playing, and I didn't understand it so much. Like, you know what I mean? I've always heard it, always felt it, like those bluesy inflections and that feeling. But like actually playing the blues and some really great tunes for a couple of years, it really was, I think, a great thing for embedding songs and the music, but the concept, the entire like of what blues is supposed to be. It's not just like, I'm not just playing a blues, man. I'm feeling a blues. Blues. I'm communicating the blues, and I'm trying to feel better about all these things that are bringing and have a laugh about it or whatever, And that was a really, again, another important couple of years, I think, because you know what you were getting at before, it's a different instrument, so I'm thinking differently, role. And so when it comes to like, when I've got to write bass lines now, you know what I mean? Experience, I think, really helped, like being able to do that. It made you, that's what a bass player would probably do,
right,
as opposed to like imagining what it would be as a keyboard player, you know, because you actually function well. So, yeah, different kind of headspace it creates. You know?
Definitely amazing. So, when we talk about bands, what was the first band you were in, and how many different bands have you been in?
Oh my God. Okay, so there was like a high school band. We won a band competition that was called like To Be Decided or something, because we couldn't think of a name, stupidly. So from then on, it was mainly just the main thing I did, like while I was studying, obviously lots of weddings, functions and stuff. You do all that sort of stuff. So I'm playing a lot of covers. But there was one band I was regularly in, and that was a Tower and Power Earth, Wind and Fire cover band called Temple of Groove. So we played, yeah, man, and we did that for a good 5-6 years, and it was like a full band, proper arrangements. It kicked ass. Like, what is hip? You know, standing there with a band that can play the crap out of that is truly powerful experience, man. Like, there's so much soil in the ground, you know, singing all those tunes. I love them so much. I still love Tower of Power and Earth, Wind and Fire to this day. Like, again, you know, they're another couple of fave bands. You know, we could talk all day about music, man.
Yes, sir.
There's so many great bands that we probably both love.
100%. So
that's the main thing, you know, just that band, you know, was the main thing that sort of carried me through. And otherwise, it's just been like getting together little groups at various times for whatever project I was trying to do. Like, you know, when it came up to that rock stuff in the late 90s, 2000, like I did it under a couple of names. Like, it started out, my very, very first rock band of my own was called Knob. And NOB, and we took that from the Macquarie Dictionary definition. One of them is to take money, especially after a performance. So it's an old English kind of term. You knob someone, you take the money. But that was like a real. There's some stuff of that there's a playlist I made called Daz Rocks on Spotify. So if you look me up, Daryl Aberhart on Spotify, I think on my profile there's a playlist there that says Daz Rocks, so you can hear some of that where that first started. That was very, if you listen to some of those, they're very punk pop, very short. And it was that whole ethos of punk, really. It's like, because I couldn't really play guitar at that time. Same thing was bass. I'd bought a guitar and I'd had it sitting there, and suddenly I want to rock. So I just started writing these songs that, you know, that's what punk is really supposed to be. You pick up an instrument and you make the noise as best you can. And that's the expression, you know, and it got a bit more refined and better over time. But that's where I started a lot of those songs that went on after that. Like I got together just a studio group, and we put it out under the Nari's Cheers and Fuse. So there's another 10 songs of that I wrote while I was in Knob that actually got recorded under that name. But they're all fun little things, and you can start to hear my penchant for odd time signatures and stuff, which I just really love, and they flow out of me naturally. Especially when I'm playing that stuff. Like, it's a bit like, I'm sure a lot of you and yourself, you may be familiar with like Soundgarden. There's that great interview with Kim Thale, and he was talking about how, you know, someone asked him about all those tunes like Spoon Man and stuff like that. And what were you thinking, like time signature wise? You know, they're all odd things that they do in sevens and stuff. And he said, well, we never thought about it, man. We played the tune, and then we sort of like, we've got the riff and it was great. And then we figured out afterwards what we were doing. And it's a lot of the time like that for me. Like, a couple of the new rock tunes I'm working on, I sit down and go, what the hell? I'm doing a 4-against-3 figure here. I'm doing an 11/8 bar. What the, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to go back over what I've just played that feels completely natural to me.
It worked, right?
And it's like, it works because it just flows. And you'll hear, I'll make sure I send you a copy of these when I finish them. But yeah, you know, a 10/8 here, 11/8, 7/8, 6/4, 6, you know, whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, it literally blows my mind in that same way that we were talking about Kim just then. It's like, that just felt natural. But it's these things. So yeah, man, those guys, I think, you know, Get Off My Wave and those sort of songs, they had a big impact on me as well. Alice in Chains, Bones. Oh my God, I love that song.
Yes.
You know that one? I feel so alone, gonna end up a big old pile of their bones.
Alice in Chains, man. Yes. Yes.
Some say we're born to the grave. Oh, yeah. I can hear it now, man. That's one that does that to me.
Yes,
Those sort of tunes. I
sir.
just,
Yes, indeed,
you know,
man. So,
love
see,
it.
listen. So,
Absolutely love it.
I'm everywhere. You got me so wide open, man. So, the dream pool. I'm gonna go into that one. So,
Yes.
tell me about the dream pool, because watching that video, man, I'm telling you, I was just like, oh, they sound great. Yeah.
That was it was the great regret of my life. Like, and it was so funny and fun leading up to it. Like, we only ever got to do that one gig, and I'm so glad that there was a couple of clips survived of it. But it's like that guy that's on the guitar, Sam Lipman. He's like one of the most musical genius people I've ever met. He's now like a film composer. You know what I mean? He played everything back there, and he was a bit like me, but even better. Like, his musical mind is like, mine's okay. There's some people, and there's is like that. And he's like at University of Texas now. I think he's like a senior lecturer in film scoring, Sam. And but yeah, he was a genius back then. He's like at 10 times that now. And it was just like I met him randomly. The story's funny. There was a music paper called The Drum Media, and there was like a Bands Wanted section in the back, which was really, really cool. You could meet random people. And there was a metal band that he was in with another two incredible Australian musicians, funnily enough, the Pike brothers, like Lawrence Pike and Richard Pike, who are two. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but they're worth you looking up if you're interested in like people doing eclectic stuff. Like they've been on Sub Pop and those sort of labels. Yeah. Some of the stuff that Lawrence and Richard have done in later life, like they're really renowned in the art rock kind of music scene. Both those guys. But yeah, so it was a young Richard Pike and a young Lawrence Pike and Sam Lipman, and had this band called 1% or something. And, so I went and did a couple of rehearsals, never really went anywhere, but Sam and I just kind of clicked and had formed a friendship. And so we started going, oh, let's have a jam one day. And so those songs, like the first one was like, every day's a big surprise. And those sort of things just sort of naturally came out of it. And then that Primitive Ecstasy was just like, oh, okay. So we had a set of 8 songs. I wish I could find the rest of the clips somewhere, but I think they're lost. But at least I've found a couple of faves. But yeah, so the Dream Pool was meant to be the start of something. Like my hope was it's just going to be developing, and we could have been like a Mr. Bungle or a Primus and found a space in what was kind of happening at the time. Like it felt like it was possible. Yes, but it didn't. But I remember we'd had like 4 or 5 rehearsals for that at John Howell, the drummer's house, and every time, man, we were getting shut down by the cops. Like we'd get like 20 minutes into it, and you can hear that from the kind of music it was, but we were just we were going for it. But it was a fun time, and I really, I think an important part of my journey, it's like, oh, okay, I feel these things, I can make this sound, I want to make this sound. Got it in my head, have to actually try and get it out of here and bring it out, bring this energy and this sound out to here. And I guess that's what I'm still trying to do with my later rock tunes, is trying to emulate a particular sound and a concept and an idea I've got in my head, and somehow make that happen. Yeah, but that's really the Dream Pool story. It was like, a spontaneous thing. Oh, great, we'll get this together, crazy rehearsals, organize this one gig, and then it was just like, and about that time, it was a weird time in Sydney, because the scene was kind of dying everywhere. Really? Sydney's kind of become a very, except for a few pockets, it's like a city for bankers, and you know what I mean? It's really not a cultural city so much. Really? And they did all this stuff like, no, man, no. And it's, that's why Melbourne's so cool. It's much more like gig on every corner kind of situation. Yeah. But, people were moving into, there was a famous pub like called the Annandale Hotel near where I used to live in Sydney. And, all these rich boomers and whatever, they'd move in next door and so, there's a pub there that's got gigs on till midnight or whatever, but they, ran up the council and getting them shut down. And so there's all this sort of garbage going on. We're just such state of, Australians like there's a famous quote from, I think it was Richard Cook, an Australian expat journalist, and he said, like, Australians love to think of themselves as so egalitarian, but they're just a nation of ultra cop dobbers, really. And there's a lot of truth in that, unfortunately. That was like paraphrasing, but like this idea of like, yeah, everyone's dobbing on everyone else and just, looking in everyone else's business and, and complaining about it. Like, and it's all too true at a fundamental level. Like everyone I share that quote with that my friends, they go, oh, you know, even my, I was talking to my mother-in-law, and we're sort of politically quite diametrically opposed the other night, and it was like, oh, even she got it. You know what I mean? You know that. Yeah, people can be a bit like that over here, but that was kind of, to me, a part of what was going on. It was like everything was just getting shut down. Harbourside Brasserie, great venue, but sold off, turned into apartments. The Real everywhere we used to play or go see music was just getting sold out to, you know, corporations and
Happens
developers
everywhere,
and
bro.
stuff.
Happens
No,
everywhere.
and they shut down the King's Cross, man. Like King's Cross was such a vibrant part of it, and they brought in this lockout law garbage because like one dude got king hit one night and went into a coma or whatever, and that was their excuse to basically shut all the nightlife down, put all these restrictions on. Oh, well, you can't go into a club after midnight, so if you're not in there, you can't go.
Wow.
And they're still doing this crap, man. All the councils like around here, it's like such a nanny state. It's so disappointing. Like you'd think that they'd be making, you know, they say all the words about, oh, we want cultural this and that. Well, you've got to make that happen. You know, you've got to take restrictions off. You know, I could tell you a million crappy stories like that, but I think that was a part of what was going on. And it was really sad, you know, like it still saddens me. So many of those great venues that were just such a vibe to go and play at or see a band, and they're just not there. I mean, you've probably got a million stories like that too. And it's just like,
no doubt. And I just know that Sun Eden, when they were talking about Melbourne, they were just talking about how vibrant, as you were saying, they have such a vibrant scene there. They were like, everything there. You know, so many different kind of music. You know, you could hear there so many genres. And I was just like, yeah, I'm there. I'm just picturing it. But they were like, yeah, it's a great scene there. Yeah.
It's a fantastic, it's the best, I reckon, the best scene in Australia. You can literally go, oh, Monday night I'll go out and see some R&B. Tuesday night I'll go and see some reggae. Wednesday I'll go blues show. You know what I mean? And that'll be on every night. Somewhere is going to have something cool. You know. And unfortunately, like I said, it just feels like a city for coke snorting merchant bankers or something. You know what I mean? And rich people at the moment. And it has forever for me. I haven't liked Sydney for the longest time. It just feels like slick and soulless. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. Sorry, you know, people that think Sydney's great, but you know, it's not. not for art and music and stuff, man. It just isn't. It's dead.
Hey, listen,
it's a dead, soulless place, and there's lots of great people living in it.
Yes.
There's lots of great people and great musicians and artists living there and trying to make stuff bubble up all the time. But, you know, they're fighting against councils. They're fighting against neighbours. They're fighting against all this choking red tape. You know, my hat off to them for trying to do stuff. But, it's a cold place, man. It's just not, it's not welcoming to me, you know.
Well, anytime that you're playing or doing your thing, it's got to be good, though, man. That's all I know. So when did you transition from the rock to the R&B other stuff into the jazz stuff that you're doing right now that we're hearing now? So how was that transition? When did you transition into that?
Well, I mean, way back in 1990, when I first did the jazz diploma course, of course, I got deeply exposed to all of those. You know, you had to learn like a core repertoire of standards. So you'd be learning all your Jerome Kerns, like all that gorgeous stuff, and learning more like, you are the promised kiss of springtime that makes the lonely winter seem long. You know, gorgeous tunes, sumptuous harmonies, beautiful melodic writing and voice leading and stuff. So that really embedded itself in me. And for years subsequent, I'd play a lot of weddings, and there's always like a dinner set. So I'd get to play, you know, have you met Miss Jones? You know, and all those gorgeous standards. So a lot of that, you're thinking like, or where did that come from? And it's a bit like the country stuff that sort of bubbles up in some of my rocks. I think all of those stuff, all of that sophistication, all of those chord progressions and melodies were, you know, just bubbling around. And I've written jazz-based stuff, but like with that last release last year, like that was a couple of years like previous to that, you know, while going, but I just had this incredible week, and it was like I felt like I was listening to like I tell people, it's like, I don't know if you're a Philip K. Dick fan, but The Man in the High Castle, you know, that story about there's this other universe, and it's an alternate universe of ours. And I call that little collection of songs the Jazz in the High Castle, because for this week or 4 or 5 days or whatever it was, I felt like I was tuned into the Dickensian universe, and I was hearing all those songs as almost pre-written things that I'm listening to on a radio, and they were just like literally flowing straight in my head, chords, words, melodies, everything. And I've had that experience before, but not so intensely and sustained. So those, I think there was a couple that didn't make the cut. So I think there was eventually like 8 tunes that I cut down to like 6, I think, that made the cut for the EP. And yeah, I think they're what you're getting at before. I think they're a distillation of the 2 times I was at the jazz course, like really immersed in thinking about that sort of stuff.
Right.
So it just sort of came naturally. And there's a real fun one on there. I'm sure you've heard that one. A friend of mine, and another great musician and educator, David Thieck, saxophonist and composer and band leader. I was writing these, I'm sharing them all in real time with my friends on Facebook. I'm saying, I'm sure I've ripped someone off when I've written this. Can anyone tell me? And I asked the jazz crew, and no, it just sounds like a standard that you don't know yet. I said, thank you. And then my friend Dave, he says, look, I got a challenge for you. Why don't you write me a song is composed entirely where the lyric is just famous jazz song titles. Yes. Which was, I love a puzzle. So that one's on there. And I love all the things you are. Make them shine, my angel eyes. It's true. Anyway, you guys can check that out later. But that sort of stuff, I just love it. And the idea of like I've got another 4 new standards that I've got the beds recorded. Haven't put the vocals and stuff on them yet and mixed and mastered. But yeah, I'm still doing and in love with the idea of, I'm just writing a jazz standard that sounds like something, and I haven't ripped it, as far as I can tell, and others I plan to, I haven't ripped anyone off. So kind of, getting back to that idea we were talking about before of like you imitate, then you innovate, and something comes to you. So I feel like all of those beautiful things that I spent so much time and investing so much time loving and learning, those harmonic motions, those melodic beautiful things from all those wonderful composers that year, Rodgers and Harts, like I've never, Frank Lesser, man, I've never been in love before. Now all at once it's you forevermore. Anyway, every time. But this is wine. The bridge in that song. But this is wine that's all too strange and strong. I'm full of foolish song, but out my song must pour. So please, yeah, man, gorgeous Frank Lesser songs. Oh, but they're all gorgeous. I love those Ribble and Magidson songs too, like "Gone with the Wind" and "Masquerade is Over." Yeah, I got a deep, deep, deep love for the music from that era of the golden age of song. There's something just so perfect about everything. We touched on the idea of prosody before, and I think a lot of those songs are just so deeply and naturally prosodic in the way that the lyric is couched and the melody inflects and imparts that information.
Yes.
My funny Valentine. And even though they're sort of written for shows. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I love music like that. And I'm going to tell you something. So listening to that part of you doing, I've been this. I've always done that. Let me tell you something. I'm not trying. I have always done it, just a kind of thing that I've always enjoyed. And I'll always just, Chucktown, my favorite, come from Charleston, South Carolina. And I would just make up I'm a writer, but I would just kind of freestyle that kind of stuff. So when I'm listening to you and I'm telling you, that's when I came to that, I was just like, I just sat there and I was just like, this is amazing. And I said, I love this kind of music. I love this. And it just made me feel good. And I was just like, holy catastrophe. And so now as you're singing, I'm just like, just making them say, I've been this here and I was just like, he might have to make a song for me just so I can try it out. Oh. So, he might have to play some music so I can see if I can do this, because I do love it like that. I think it's amazing. I'm a lover of music in all genres, and just hearing you do that. And so when I say that you can rival those other guys, I mean that 100%. So thinking about the Bing Crosbys and the Dean Martins and the Rat Pack and all those guys doing that, and Sammy Davis Jr. I'm just
the great crooners.
Oh man, I'm like, he's got it. I said he's got it, and I was like, I'm loving it, and your voice inflections and how you're writing the music and you're in that pocket. I'm just like, all of this is great.
I reckon so much of it too is like Carmen and Sarah, like Carmen McRae and Sarah. I reckon I channel Carmen a lot. Subconsciously, like some of those old standards that he just murders, like it's not murders but slays, like what's that Guess who I saw today, my dear? I've never been so shocked before. I had to blindly to the door. You didn't even see me passing through. Guess who I saw today? Guess who I saw today? Guess who I saw today? I saw you. You know, like that. And Sarah Vaughan, oh my God, on
Yes.
September, Clifford Brown,
Uh-huh.
you know, that and that thing, like she keeps working up to it. And by the very last chorus, she does that incredible cadence, like, and these few
Yes.
precious days. Oh, you know, Sarah, man. You talk about goosebumps, but Carmen and Sarah, I think, have been a massive influence. You know, we mentioned Rat Pack.
Right.
Those two ladies. I mean, I love Ella too,
Uh-huh.
but I guess it's just the same for everyone. You've got your things that just ping your brain, and
Yes,
like
indeed.
something about Carmen McRae's tone and Sarah's tone and their control and the way that they inhabit a lyric is just, yeah, amazing to me. Like every time I hear them, every time I play someone like Carmen's, like that when I give who I saw today, they go, "What? I've never heard that tune before," and I'm going to put it in my thing now. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you hear her sing this little narrative thing. I don't know if you're familiar with that tune, but my God, like the power of her and Sarah and what they can do with a lyric and stuff in that content, I think is like just magic. Like what happens.
Yeah, I
And
watched
no one did it
this
quite
thing
like
where Sarah Vaughan was on the Sammy Davis Jr. show. It popped up on my
Yeah.
feed, and I looked at it, and I've always heard her name, and I probably heard different music by her, but he wanted her, she wanted him to sing something with her, but she started singing, and man, she grabbed me, and she held me, and I was just like, holy catastrophe! I was like, this woman is amazing, and I was just like, this is Sarah Vaughan, because it's kind of like me getting the picture of her. So putting that voice with the person. So I was just like, oh man, this is totally amazing. And I'm telling you, I love that kind of music. I can just get by myself and just go off by myself somewhere, getting my vehicle. I do it a lot and just drive and listen to music that I really love. And I love stuff like that. And that's why I'm just telling you, once again, bigging you up and letting you know you do it so well. And I'm telling you, I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, man.
So listen, we could talk about so much. And listen, there's so many things. I just went on beyond because I'm just like, nah, we're flowing. There's no need to even ask those questions because you already really answered them so much and so well. So what I want to do is I want to talk about these like kind of your albums and the music that you had out. And so the first one I want to talk about, and I wanted to wait until we got to this so I could talk about this. So long time denizens. So me, that IGY stays in rotation and is one of my favorites with New Frontier also. Oh my goodness. I smiled all the way through it. Fantastic. Because I was actually early in the morning, I was coming home. I stepped out and I was coming home and I was listening to it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, he's killing me. So when you said it earlier, man, the chills that went through me, because I'm, standing tough under stars and stripes weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like, yo, I love that. And I have played it. And I thank my sister who plays the saxophone. And, back in the day, she introduced me to that Donald Fagen and Nightfly album. And, I was just, once again, young. But, man, I played that. And listen, that and New Frontier on that album, the whole album's great. But those two songs, I play those songs over and over and over again. I think they're amazing. So tell me about that you came and you put all that together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you mentioned the Nightfly, I was just going to say there's like two albums that really, like those first time you hear them albums that just like change your life. One of them was the Nightfly, just someone whacking the Nightfly on my God. Oh my God, this is like everything I've ever wanted to hear. Yes. And the other one, like slightly different, Donny Hathaway Live. Oh, God.
Greatest
that
voice.
Donny Hathaway Live, man. There's just,
his voice.
Talking about the kid.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah.
Donny Hathaway.
So, and I was dreaming of the past. Yes. But yeah, sorry, getting back to Longtime Denizens. So it's still one of my favorite tunes I think I ever wrote for a lot of reasons, like harmonically, melodically, and conceptually most of all, because it's like an And actually, just I'll let you in a little secret. Grace and I are planning kind of a Redux version of that, like a big like internet CapCut collab. So fingers crossed we're going to get that together on Long Time Denizens.
Awesome.
Like a huge international cast of like my favorite musicians that are
Yes.
hopefully going to, do their little bits on it. But it was written as like, I know Fagan kind of wrote it tongue in cheek irony, a gentle kind of smiling irony about the naivety of thinking, oh, we're all going to have the spandex jacket. He's gently, make to me like, and I think that was his intention, is from what I can tell, talking to other songwriters too. Like the idea is he's just ever so gently, okay, you'll get your span, whatever.
Right.
But I wrote that more in a kind of an honest, open-eyed, kind of naive response to that song. It's like, okay, well, the idea is we don't have our spandex jackets yet, brother, but maybe if we just hang in there and we all kind of get a bit more positive. I guess it's like one of the most positive lyrics I've ever written as well. This world's getting so cold, you can almost feel it wearing you down. Future perfect's yet to be found. Everybody's looking around saying that's not right now, let's think it over. And it was written, Donald laid it all out, everything you ever needed to hear about the geophysical year. He sang it loud and clear for you. Thoughtful dreamers all turn your face up to the sky while I sing I-G-Y, and baby we'll chase the blues away. We'll be riding, and so on. You can listen to the song online. But yeah, that's it. The idea was that writing a pure non-ironic response to an ironic song was kind of interesting to me. It's like I just wanted to write, okay, well, I'm going to take that song as face value, as like what a beautiful world it would be. And it's like I'm sitting around here now, 2024. Where's my fucking spandex jacket? Dude? Right. I haven't got it. But maybe, just maybe, if we all just kind of band together, long time denizens, if we all band together and sort of make a more positive world and think more positively, and I think, we were talking about prosody again, and I think there's a lot of elements that it's a very uplifting kind of progression to me. It feels in a way like that sort of futuristic, hopeful kind of quality to it. So yeah, I'm really crossing the Redux version because I love that song so much, and Grace loves it a lot. So we're hoping that we're going to international cast of friends do a version of that, which will be kick-ass. I'll be stoked.
No, it will be, man. I'm looking forward to hearing that, man. Indeed.
Yeah, I'm so stoked you love that tune, man. Like,
oh my goodness, man. I'm telling you, when here I am and I'm just getting home. It's like a few minutes before I'm getting home and I'm listening to it. So I'm listening to all the things you're saying. And I'm just like, hey, he said, Jill. I said, wait a minute, IG. I was like, I'm there. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm loving this. And so when I pulled up in my driveway before I opened up the garage, I just sat there and I just listened to the rest of it. Man. I was just like, this is amazing, man. I said, yes, indeed. I love it. I love it. I love it. I said,
thank you.
That doggone Daryl's doing work right here. He's doing work on this.
Yeah, it was just, and it's only a demo, just for anyone listening or goes and listening. It's just like a reasonable quality demo. Yeah. I just had to put up at the time because I thought, well, if I don't, I won't record a version of it, and it'll just sit in my head, and I won't get the sound out. So I just said, I'll try it, get it out as best I can. And I put a reasonable approximation of what I wanted to hear, but I wanted the Steely Dan budget, man. I wanted the Gaslighting Abbey kind of album budget for Two Against Nature to make that song sound like I always think it needed to sound.
Yes.
So I'll be very interested to see what the super group collab comes up with and how that ends up sounding.
It's gonna be amazing. There's no doubt about it. So now I know we're getting closer to this, but shake these blues away, bro. You got me in like a juke joint, dancing and singing with this one. It is just like it's blues. I mean, it's really just listening to all of it. I was just like. Once again, quick story. My brother-in-law, when I went to Mississippi in the early days, and my wife is from Mississippi, and Leland, Mississippi, as a matter of fact. And I remember her older brother, Junior, he took me around to some of these places within their town. And I hadn't been in there. I'm a military kid, and so my upbringing was totally different. So he's taking me to these different places, and people are playing music in these places. And I'm just looking around, and I'm just like, It's like the stuff you see on TV. And I was just like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But the music was just so good that they were playing inside these places. And I was like, wow, man. I said, this is what you guys do. It was a different culture for me, a whole different scene that I hadn't been a part of, but it was amazing to me. So tell me about, tell me about this. Shake These Blues Away. Tell me about
well, I think it was just like, we were talking before about how I'd always sort of felt the blues was a part of my playing, but I'd never really, until I worked with Ray, found a way to properly articulate and express that. And I think that album, and I've got another blues EP of another 4 cool, even I think better original blues tunes to finish and stuff and get out this year, hopefully as well. But it's like, to me, it was more that album was just like exploring the idea of like, man, I love the blues. I don't want to play everyone else's blues because, as you can probably sort of hear, I'm not writing for the most part like standard blues tunes. They're blues-esque. Some of them, it's your
style, it's your way. Yeah.
But it's like very much. It's very much. Obviously, I'd like to think, and I guess you're picking up on that vibe. It's a blues album, So the songs are all blues influenced. They've got a huge part of that. So I think that album was really just the first step for me in codifying and going a bit like the jazz standards. Like, I can write my own original jazz standards. I can write my own original blues tunes that I like.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they remind me a little bit of other people's, but not, what's that? I've been down before, I'll be here again, and I never know, so I'll be playing. Oh Lord, let me just be passing through. And then I'll put the little Steely Dan change in. Ain't got no time to be feeling blue. Little tiny bit of it reminds me a bit of like a blues Fagan would do actually when I was writing it.
Right.
A nice little jazz. Little jazz twist on the turnaround just for the hell of it, but it suits the song. So yeah, that's essentially that album, man. It's just like my first real decent crack at going, can I write a collection of original blues tunes instead of having to cover or play everyone else's? Maybe I can sort of find my voice a bit more. And I was, for a first attempt at doing that with original material, I was pretty happy with it. And I think I'm hoping as I get the opportunity to earn a bit more income, please, 2024, I can start to get a bit more into the studio again and get some of these things actually out there.
Well, you did it.
Yeah,
I think
that's essentially the story of that album. I don't think there's too much more I can tell you about other than it was just like trying to,
Yeah, you accomplished that. Most definitely, man. I love it. It's all love, man.
Sorry, you right, Sal? I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, we
just wasn't sure.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I was checking. Didn't name me.
They were
just checking on me, making sure I hadn't. It's all good. They just checking on me, make sure I hadn't passed out. I think.
Yes, indeed.
That's what happens when you're having a good chat, man. Time just like, hey, man. I'm not even looking at the clock. I'm just having a great time chatting with you.
100%. This is great for me. It really is. And so, let's talk about your music.
You've got your editing job on your hands, though. I can tell you that, haven't you? With all our ramblings, but hopefully there's a lot of nice chunks in there for you.
Am I going to make 2 parts? I like to let it run because I think people should hear it all. So, whether I want a whole lot of people, just still building. I think it's worth it. Everybody that I have on my show, I think that they are worth every single second and I know how it is now in today's thing, the way people are. But I believe anybody I have on here, I'm a fan of them. I support them, and I think other people should too, because I think the music is great. I think what you're doing is great. I think your vocals are great. I think you have everything so in tune with each other, man. It's a beautiful thing. So
thank you.
No worries, man. I'm going to do what I do. You know what I'm saying? And I always say, like, they'll finally come how they're supposed to come. That's just what it is. If you love music, you're going to love this. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's definitely things. It's like it sometimes is interesting to, like you're saying, in this modern world, you don't get everything's just so attention's short.
Yeah, microwave age. Yes,
like little chunks.
Yes,
and it's no one's like there's no chance to go deep, or long.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But no, it's
except for right now, which is great.
Listen, it's all love. That's what I said. I want you to say whatever you have to say, man. So it's beautiful. So things might be turning around. Each song takes me to a vision of you performing in a casino in Vegas. I love it. The orchestration is incredible, and your vocals are amazing. So talk to me about this album, because I'm telling you, it's another great one. And it's seeing it's like steps, Dream Pool to the blues to this here, and it's just seeing you here, and it's just amazing that you're able to do all those things. So I'm sorry, I'm just excited about it. So tell me about this last.
No, that's cool.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, these were just like that thing that I was saying, like the Jazz from the High Castle project. It was like they just one after the other.
Yeah.
Sometimes a couple of them came a day, and it was just like I've very rarely written stuff so completely and so fast. But it was like I said, I'm hearing them on a radio station from another universe, and they're just fully formed, bang there. So, and again, I think what I was saying before, that's the distillation of all those years of learning and loving and adoring those great standards that came before, and it's just like my little takes on those, and they've all kind of got little individual influences and gags, like things might be turning around. The title track, there's a famous Jamie Abersold play book that most young jazz musicians have at some point. It's called 2-5-7-1s. So it's just like all 2-5-1 progressions in every key, and it just keeps going around up in semitones, little patterns and chord progressions that just move chromatically through all 12 keys. So it was called Turnarounds Cycles 2-5-7-1s or something. So that's kind of a reference to that thing, like whole tune itself is built on what are called turnarounds, right? Things might be turning around. I got a funny feeling. Soon I'll be riding high. Oh, goodbye. So yeah, so things might be turning around. I'll quickly walk you through the influences. The other one you mentioned, Bing Crosby before. So between Judy Bailey, I was telling you about, and her block voicing stuff, the first part of that made me think of her when I was writing that. Cold winds blowing, might start snowing, but I think I'll be fine. And that was like Bing. I was definitely thinking Bing and Duke Ellington with that elegant, that kind of action. The ballad on the EP, definitely Johnny. It was two things again. Like a lot of things I do are two things. It's just a thing I do. It sort of makes the whole experience richer, I think, like conceptually. So this is Johnny Hartman, that beautiful ballad baritone singer that sang with Coltrane, like the very thought of you makes my heart sing like an April breeze on the wings of. But Johnny Hartman, man, oh my God.
Yeah.
Please won't say it was a direct Johnny Hartman / Coleman Hawkins, which was like Coleman Hawkins was that alto saxophonist who released that infamous and famous version of Body and Soul back in the day that like set everyone else off, like pre-Parker, where he didn't play the melody. So he played what's like a contrafact, or he just basically was improvising his own melody and solo over the changes to body and soul. If I play it on my tunes, like, my heart is sad and lonely, for you I sigh, for you dear only. So I take those changes like, please won't you say that I'm all alone now, whiling the hours away on my own, so patiently will you say you will be mine. So very much a Hartman thing, but also a Hawkins kind of reference as well for the people in the know. It's like, oh, I'm doing what Doc Cat to Hawkins. Parker did that with tunes like Bird of Paradise, where he'd improvise over stuff like that as well. So it was a thing that Coleman set in place. The bossa nova, which is like pure Jobim, someday I know that you want me. I'll do everything I can. I'm your loving man. Trying to get all those lovely little tangential slides that Jobim's known. A little bit of Cole Porter in there too, I think, but also referencing that another. And again, it's a twofer. So it's like that old is it the girl next door or the boy? How can I ignore that girl next door? I love her more than I can. So it was like kind of riffing on that narrative idea of the person next door. Someday I know you want me. The poor. It's like you'll want me one day. I don't know it. I'll just keep hanging in there. What else is? I've suddenly forgotten all the track listings on that one. The jazz song, which we talked about. I love all the things you are. Again, that's a Parker blues for the A section changes. You know what, all of you. And I made my own B section with some more 2/5s. So yeah, all definitely have two tangible kind of input influences that I can trace back. I think, like in my own mind, I know what factor influenced that, and what, in hindsight, again, it's a bit like playing the guitar songs and figuring it out in reverse,
Right.
what the time signatures, where I think I figured the influences a bit out in reverse, like once I sat back from them and, of course, Judy taught me those. And that sounds like it sounds a bit like Duke or whatever is playing. So yeah, that collection was really, I think, hopefully the first in, like I said, I've got another nice selection of 4 tunes with another beautiful ballad, I think even nicer than the ballad on that one, that I've got. But yeah, it just, I love writing them. I love sophistication, and I love trying to, you were getting at before, that music. I just want to immerse myself in it and see if I can, the dream, I guess, is to create something. I write a standard one day that becomes a standard. That's the real dream. Yeah, I write a new standard that becomes like, and it does happen from time to time, that something just gets picked up and put in the repertoire. But we'll see. I'll just keep writing them, man, and see what happens.
Hey,
don't stop. Speaking of jazz stuff, I didn't even know, because it's not easy to find. It's not under my name. If you might want to check this out later, but there's an album, like, I don't know if you'd seen any of the avant-garde and free jazz stuff I'd ever done, because it's under the Daryl Aberhart trio, I think, on Spotify. So if you like things like, if you like the idea of like Ornette Coleman with Frank Zappa from tunes like the Jazz Discharge Party Hats and the Dangerous Kitchen kind of stuff, then you might like. It's an album of stuff. It's a concept album called I Don't Get Out Much, with 2 amazing musicians, Tim Geldon's drums, Thomas Wade on bass. And it's a concept we developed together on Freedom in Form. So all of the tunes have a lyric and a form, or whatever, most of them do, and then no harmonic context at all. So you're playing completely just directionally, but you're holding on to the form if you're playing a standard. So it sounds like the most demented standards on the planet, because there's no chords and everyone's like freely improvising and all these dissonances and congruences. But it's like one of my favorite things that I've ever done, and not many people really know about that. And I'm actually about to release a whole bunch more of that, and a workshop and a presentation to encourage other people to play that way in a freestyle. So I'm a huge Ornette Coleman like fanatic, especially those early albums, and he's influenced me a great deal, like in how I think about music, improvisation, and self-expression too.
Well, all I know is that you are beyond talented as a musician, man, and I could just tell my feelings. You're one of the great human beings, young man, and it's just an amazing thing. I've enjoyed myself so much. And listen, we have to do this again. And you're welcome anytime that you want to come and just talk. If you just want to come and talk, whatever. If you want to come and teach a class, I don't care what it is, man. I've enjoyed this. I'm telling you, I've enjoyed this tremendously.
Same, man. Thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat. I'm really, welcome the opportunity to talk about stuff. Like I said, remembering it makes me, you can just smiling the whole time, talking about and remembering all these things and thinking about them. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and I got to make sure I'm gonna hit Eric up. I'm gonna probably text him and say like, hey man, I don't know if you checked him out yet, but you got to check out this young man right here, because he's amazing, and he's a piano dude just like you, my brother. Because he's really, he's played with the B-52s and all, toured with all of them. He's
wow,
really, yeah, he's definitely one of those guys.
Awesome.
And his father actually plays on he still plays on cruise ships and stuff like that, pianos, and does stuff probably like what you're doing. So it's listen, I'm telling you, just it's amazing. So I want to get to the last question. I wanted to ask you another thing, but listen, we'll get so deep into it. I just want to, let me say this. Grace is amazing. I think that she's super talented, and I know where she got it from. And just once again, tell her I said hello. And the door is open if she ever wants to come to talk about whatever for her also. Yeah. If your wife's into music, so your wife is a musician also?
Yeah, well, she did play in, she was the rhythm guitarist in that first rock band.
Okay,
so
listen.
She was definitely
playing
a bit of punk guitar back then.
Anytime, if they got anything to say, they want to come on, the door's wide open. We're family. So it's all love.
Thanks,
so,
man.
Yeah,
Well,
no, really.
I'll definitely let you know when I've got some new music like done, and even just come and have a quick chat with you.
Hey, man, it doesn't. Listen, whatever
you
you're
know,
doing,
go through the tracks or something.
whatever you're
Yeah.
doing, if you want to just come on and we'll do it. It's all love. It really is 100%. So,
awesome, man.
My last question is, what was the last song you listened to?
It was. Let me think. Australian rock band. I was going through a phase last night. There's an incredible, just as a last kind of big, huge influence, like on my rock music. There's an Australian rock band. They're not around anymore. They're called Pollyanna. And for me, like, there's an albums of their Long Player and songs of theirs, like, any of the stuff, basically off their albums. And there's Keep Me Guessing. Like, they're just incredible. I don't know. There's something about Pollyanna songs. So yeah, we were listening to "Keep Me Guessing" last night by Pollyanna.
Gotcha.
Great melodic songs. Yeah, just beautiful. No one quite like them, man. So yeah, Pollyanna. If you haven't checked out, they rock.
I always like to ask that question for the very reason you just spoke about something you're passionate about and something you're listening to. And we as musicians, there's no telling what we're listening to because we love music. And so just like you bringing that,
it's like you say, it's different every day, isn't it, man?
Yes,
I'm in a Fagin mood or in a this mood or whatever,
Man, oh man, it's just all love. So the floor is yours. Is there anything that you'd like to tell the people? Please speak your piece. Let it be known where they can check you out and all those good things. Talk to them.
Oh, well, look, if you're interested, like, I'd love it if you want to check out like my Spotify. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. I've made some playlists, like the rock stuff I do. There's a Daz Jazz, a Daz Rocks, and I think a Daz Experimental playlist I put there on my profile, so you can sort of check out all the genres and the things that I've explored, like the things that I've got on Spotify at the moment. Anyway, I've also got like on my Instagram, which where we've connected. There's a whole bunch of reels from my history, and also me playing favorite standards, originals, and also that other album we didn't actually get to talk about, which was the John Scofield, the amazing American guitarist, let me be the only person in the world who's ever put lyrics to his music. So there's an album I did of that, The Cat Within, I put out in 2006, which is like, I think it was like 8 or 10 tunes of John's that he let me write lyrics to, and they approved. So that's awesome. A cool one. That's definitely in the Daz Jazz album stuff. But yeah, so, please, I'd love you to connect, to follow and check what I'm doing if you're into it. And because I love making music for people, and I love hearing like from people like yourself and others, they're enjoying what I'm doing. So that's like, for someone that feels like they're toiling away in relative obscurity most of the time, that, it's a real rewarding thing, even to just have like one person click on and say, man, love it, or whatever it is, just drop a comment or something if you're enjoying what I'm doing, because it keeps me motivated. 100%. So yeah, I'm not asking for much. I'm not even saying, hey, go buy my stuff. But if you're a Rothschild multi-billionaire and you want to sponsor someone, please, go buy my album for $5 million, please.
Hey, listen,
patrons, if you're,
I'm gonna say it's worth it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I believe it's worth it, man. Just really, you took me on a ride vocally and with the music and just going through the different genres and where you are right now, just listening to it. I'm telling you, I was thoroughly, it was all my pleasure. I was thoroughly excited about it. I was just like, man, and just listen to your voice. And then I'm telling you, I'm no you or nothing like that, but come into and I just started doing it. I was just like, I love this stuff. I don't think anybody really knows how much I love this kind of music. So, yeah, you might have to, give me one of those off ones that you have somewhere, and let me see if I can run it and put some vocals to it or whatever. Like that. Let me try it.
I'll put the thinking cap on. If there's one that comes up that I think, I'll send it to you.
Indeed, man. I love it, man. But no, once again, thank you very, very much for a great time and a great conversation. I am grateful, thankful, and honored to have you on here, no doubt, man. I really appreciate it.
And the same back at you for having me on. So thank you so much.
Man, no doubt.
Really appreciate you being interested in taking the time to want to talk about this stuff, man.
Of course, man.
It's been fun.
This is my kind of thing.
I'll do it again for sure. I'd love to have another chat when I got some more stuff to play for you.
Once again, you guys just let me know. Any of you guys want to come on, and just like you said, one of those other guys, I can't remember the name you said it was, but yeah, I'd like to get in touch with him and talk to him.
Ray Beadle, the Australian blues guitarist, man. He would be a great person. He'd love to chat to you.
I'd love to talk
He's
to
amazing.
him also. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, listen. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you know who it is. It's the big guy with the big show, the Lord Nelson. That is, yes, indeed, for the podcast Live and Loud with the Lord on the CMS Network with 5 Royals Entertainment. And this guy right here, this amazing guy right here, Daryl Aberhart. Hey, man, I appreciate you so much, man. Thank you so much, my brother. Yes, you do.
Thanks so much for the chat, mate. That was awesome. Thank you.
Awesome, man.
Things might be turning round. I got a funny feeling. Soon I'll be riding high, kissing my troubles all goodbye. I can't see how I know. Maybe it's intuition. Feels like the sun is going to shine on me. Yeah, it seems like I've been waiting for ages to ever get the chance to let everybody know what I can do. Maybe now it's time, yeah, finally gonna get some fans. Man, I can taste it now. Something is surely coming. Just gotta wait it out. I know I'll be making it big somehow. Yes, I do. Soon I'll be riding high, kissing my troubles all goodbye. I can't say how I know. Maybe it's intuition. Feels like the sun is going to shine on me. Yeah, it seems like I've been waiting for ages to ever get the chance to let everybody know what I can do. Maybe now it's time, yeah, finally gonna get some fans. Man, I can taste it now. Something is surely coming. Just gotta wait it out. I know I'll be making it big somehow. Yes, I know I'll be making it big somehow. Yeah, I know I'll be making it big somehow.
I am the Lord Nelson, that is.